So I recently posted a video on a successful PRTD application approval on an HNC ground, and after that I'm getting a lot of consultations asking this very same question, that whether it is even worth to apply for your PRTD application under humanitarian compassionate grounds in 2025. Obviously it is very situational, very client specific, but let's try to address this issue from a broader perspective to see if it is even worth to spend your time, money, and energy into this process as far as 2025 is concerned. I'm Niladri Mukherjee. I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant and I practice in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So permanent residency travel document under humanitarian compassionate grounds come into picture when you otherwise do not meet the residency obligations of Canada. So you fell short of your residency obligation, you might have traveled back home, your PR card expired, and now you're thinking to come to Canada. Okay, so if you did not satisfy the residency obligation, technically, obviously, you are not eligible to apply for your PRTD by default. You have to apply under the HNC ground. Okay, when you talk about humanitarian compassionate grounds, it then becomes a discretionary application, meaning that it is at the discretion of that particular issuing authority, reviewing authority to decide whether they would approve or not approve your application. Whether they will approve or not approve your application is very case specific. I have no hesitation in saying that after these many years of experience, that immigration from Canada's perspective is a very selfish motive. Okay, so I know Canada is very human. We have refugee programs, we have HNC programs and all that. But majority of the times, the decision is guided by the selfish motive. And that motive, along with taking care of the other aspect of the law, is whether bringing you back when you did not fulfill the residency obligation for the first time, bringing you back, whether that movement is going to give any economic benefit to Canada or not. Okay, so if you can establish that on the balance of probabilities, your coming to Canada will be helpful for Canada, if you can cite the best interest of the child or children, if you can cite the logical reasoning because of which you had to go back to your home country and could not come back, and can convince the IRCC that if this is the time, if you get an opportunity, you will never repeat the same mistake, there is still a likelihood that IRCC would review your situation under humanitarian compassionate grounds and probably give you the travel document, meaning that with that travel document, you can come to Canada and get your PR card thing done at the port of entry, meaning that you can get your PR, you can regain your PR, right? So to say. So it's because this is a discretionary application and the factors that I mentioned, such as the best interest of the child, etc., are just some of the factors. Because this is a discretionary application, a lot of analysis go into it. We have to review how long have you been away for, why did you have to leave Canada, did you even try to come back to Canada, what kind of economic benefit would Canada would receive if they were to approve your PRTD, what kind of dependents you have, if you have any Canadian born child or children. Whole bunch of factors is to be assessed, a form need to be filled up, and if your stay from Canada, if you're being away from Canada is way too long, then ideally you should go for a paper application. Please do not think that the paper application is stale. Paper application in PRTD still work. Again, depends on the case. Cannot really comment on case specific situation through a YouTube video. So I'm not commenting that you should go for a paper, but paper application is also a thing and that works perfectly fine. Okay. So if you're thinking whether to even apply for a PRTD or not in 2025, you are then probably thinking of coming to Canada and living here permanently. Because you are not thinking to come and stay here in Canada permanently, you can then review whether you have any other option on the table or not, right? So if you have not lived in Canada, at least in the last couple of years, there is a very little probability that you can actually make it to Canada through express entry or through any other through any other pathways. So if you can invest about 8-9 months of your life, the required amount of time, money and energy into the process, most likely it will be a worthwhile exercise to at least try to see if they can give you a PRTD. If this application is refused, then then that's the day when you actually lose your permanent residency status. And because if that happens, then you can apply for an appeal. You can appeal to the decision. Now, whether that appeal will be successful or not, it again depends on the case. You can approach the Immigration Appeal Division. So a whole bunch of factors then need to be assessed. But It's probably an assessment whether do you have any other pathways, do you have any other meaningful pathways in 2025 to make it to Canada. If not, then probably PRTD under HNC will probably be a worthwhile exercise, regardless of how long the process takes, or how expensive the process is, or even how complex the process is. We as an organization, we have been dealing with this kind of cases for a fairly long period of time. So if you need our assessment of your personal situation, more than welcome to hop into our website, nuvonation.ca, book a relevant professional consultation. I'll be very happy to have a case specific discussion with you. Hope this helps. Bye now.